Good evening, and welcome to the Glendale City Council meeting for June 29th. Due to the evolving situation with the COVID-19 novel coronavirus and health recommendations from the LA County Health Department, the Glendale City Council meeting will be available to the public electronically. Due to social distancing requirements, the public will not be able to attend the meeting, but you are encouraged to watch and participate from the safety of your homes to practice social distancing. The meeting can be viewed on local cable, that would be Charter Channel 6 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. It is also streaming on glendaleca.gov. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting these questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person during the Glendale City Council meeting. And before we get started with roll call, I would like to submit to the public that item 8F has been taken off the agenda tonight and will be back on the agenda on July 13th. So if you're waiting for that item, it will appear on July 15th. So with that, roll call.
Councilmember Agajanian. Present. Brotman. Here. Kasakian.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
And Mayor Devine.
Here. What's next, please?
Flag salute.
Thank you. Mr. Kasakian, you please, Councilmember.
Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for tonight's invocation. Father, we give you thanks for our many blessings and ask that you continue to look upon us with kindness. We especially ask for an abundance of grace, health, and happiness during this Independence Day weekend. A blessing it is to enjoy the freedoms which we too often take for granted and the many opportunities which you have granted us. We remember those who fought and died for our freedom in the past and the soldiers, first responders, and others who serve and protect us daily. Father, we petition you to serve as a guide to us and help us to live our lives in a manner that reflects your teachings. Amen.
Thank you. Next, please.
That will be the agenda for the June 29th, 2021 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council. It was posted on June 22nd, 2021 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
And next?
Next would be 3 presentation and appointments. 3A, agenda preview for the meeting of Tuesday, July 6, 2021. The regular Housing Authority and the City Council meetings for July 6, 2021 have been canceled. The next regular meetings are scheduled for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021.
Thank you. Next?
Next would be consent items, including minutes. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues want to pull any of the items, or are we ready to make a motion?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
and Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item.
Next item would be city council and staff comments.
Thank you. Any of my colleagues have comments?
I do.
Okay,
I
Councilmember
do.
Najarian.
So I have a couple items. The first is I'd like to remind everybody that this coming Sunday is the 4th of July, and that the city of Glendale is sponsoring, in part, a fireworks display, which is going to be displayed at the it's at the downtown area near Brand and Harvard. It can be seen in the entire downtown region. It's a free show. There's plenty of parking. We're hoping that people who haven't been to downtown Glendale since the pandemic began, we're just starting to, as you know, break out of some of the restrictions and masking, to come down and have dinner, have a snack, do some shopping, and enjoy the fireworks show. It begins at 9 p.m., which is just as it becomes dark, and there's no seating. It's going to be basically stand where it's comfortable or sit at a nearby restaurant and watch the show. So that is called Jewel City Sparkles. The next item, we at Metro have changed some of our bus lines, and I think we got some notices from displeased residents about 1 or 2 lines being changed or altered. In the place of those bus lines is something that Metro is launching, and I gave a brief mention of it. It's called Metro Micro, and that is as you can tell, it's a small van-type vehicle. It holds, I think, maybe 6 to 8 people. It is an on-demand bus service, which is used for short local trips. Glendale is one of the first cities to have this available to them. It is ADA compliant, as you can tell. It is meant to be a fast and safe option for trips around town. So how do you get that bus to come to your door? Ms. Vukos, you can join on an app by Metro Micro. You can book online at metro-micro.net, or you can call the phone number 323-GO-METRO, and they will arrange a ride for you to come in and pick you up. The price is and this is the service area. The next slide shows the service area, which is basically all of Glendale up to Glendale Community College and down through Eagle Rock and Highland Park to Los Feliz area. The cost is a introductory special of $1, and you can use your tap card or a credit card. They do not take cash, though. So this is a great system. I hope everyone who needs to get around will leave their cars at home and get on the Metro Micro and get to where you need to go. And I think there's hours of operation, 5:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. for our region. I think there's a short video too. That's that screen, I think. There you go. Thank you, Aram, for that. Madam Mayor, the last item I have is I'd like to put on the agenda a discussion of the report that Chief Pavlidis put forth last week, or perhaps 2 weeks ago, regarding the directives implemented by then newly elected DA George Gascon, and how it relates to community policing and public safety, to see if we want to take any steps such as empowering our city attorney to conduct prosecutions of certain Glendale Municipal Code violations. And there are some limitations as to what extent we can do those prosecutions, or whether we just want to leave it the way it is. But there's been some discussion. This is not a recall George Gascon discussion. But what can we do as a city in light of these new directives?
I'll second that, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mr. Kasek.
Anyone else? Councilmember?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 2 items. One is I was hoping that staff could prepare a report on electrifying our gas landscaping equipment. I know I've spoken to the city manager about this. So we have set aside money in the current year budget to complete the rollout for converting to electric equipment in all of our parks. And I would like to see what the plan is for that. And then also just some recommended steps for how we go about a citywide ban, if you want to call it, on on gas blowers, mowers, and maybe trimmers. I know we have roughly earmarked or scheduled this for the beginning of next calendar year, I believe was the original plan. And I'd like to see if we can start working on that now, because there will be a multi-year phase-in, and so I think it's good for us to start looking at what our options are. Do we phase it in first with larger properties and then, go to smaller ones, and what kind of education and outreach do we do in the meantime, and things like that. So if anybody would support that, I'd just like to get that discussion going sooner rather than later.
I would support that. I think we've been through that before, Mr. Galanian, you and I, and council, so yes.
Yeah, okay. And then the other thing I wanted to ask City Manager Galania to mention is some of the work he's been doing to try to get vaccines out to some of the hesitant segment of the population, I guess you could call it. And a number of us have been talking about our concern that Glendale is running low. I checked the numbers, and there's still a 10-point gap between our vaccination rate and that of LA County as a whole. And on the over 65, there is a 16-point gap, and that's holding steady. So we're at 57% on 65 and over, whereas LA County as a whole is at 71%. It's very concerning now, especially with the Delta variant sweeping through, and even the LA County Department of Public Health now starting to recommend that we all wear masks whether we're vaccinated or not. So I think given that our community is running low as far as vaccine rate, I think that we really need to step it up. So I'm glad, and then maybe you can mention the one initiative which does sound promising.
Certainly. Mayor Devine, member of City Council, Council Member Brotman, as you mentioned, my staff and I have been brainstorming on alternative ways of promoting the vaccination and educating the folks on the benefits of vaccination. And as such, staff's been in contact with the Armenian American Medical Association. We are hoping to get some of the doctors on board to be able to administer these vaccinations more easily, and we can promote that, obviously. We've also been working with LA Department of Public Health in securing multiple mobile vaccination clinics, and we've succeeded recently, as of a couple of days ago, to secure a site. We've been communicating and in contact with the houses of worship, and St. Mary's Church is the first church or house of worship that has agreed for us to be able to place this mobile clinic outside the church. It's confirmed for July 11th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., as I noted, at St. Mary's Church on South Central and Chestnut Avenue. We're also working on securing a sign-up link so that people can sign up in advance to be able to get vaccinated, although you don't need signing in to be able to take advantage of this mobile clinic. Walk-ups are obviously welcome, but signing up does expedite the process on the site and helps them gauge interest leading up to the event. They will be providing all the three types of the vaccines, namely J&J, Pfizer, and Moderna. We're also working with County Department of Public Health on another site. We're hoping to be able to secure it somewhere in the downtown area where there's significant foot traffic and it'll be visible. So those are things that we have been able to secure and succeed in, and will continue to promote and find alternate ways of educating folks on the benefits of it.
Okay, thank you. And I know we're going to discuss the mask mandate issue later, but I don't know when the right time is, but we might, if things look like they're going to worse, we might need to reconsider the mask mandates in the city. So I hope we don't have to go there.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Councilmember Sakian?
Thank you, Mayor. This weekend I had the opportunity and honor to attend the 100th birthday of a Glendale resident, and you had provided a proclamation. I want to wish Mopses Kasparian and his family well. A true immigrant success story. He was surrounded by family, which included children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Truly wonderful event, and I guess with the improving numbers with COVID, you could just see that family was very excited to be together and gathered. So I want to wish him and his family well. Also, yesterday was the anniversary date for the Stonewall riots that took place in New York, and 69, a turning point for the LGBT community. Glendale's LGBT activists and allies had organized a gathering last night that was very well attended, and I was pleased to join members of the community, residents young and old of all backgrounds, and spend time with them to talk about Glendale issues, talk about what pride means to them, and how excited they were for the city's support. And I believe the mayor was honored by them recently as well. You received a recognition. So congratulations and thank you for that. I have a question of staff that a resident asked me about when we will resume charging fares on our Beeline buses. If we can have an answer to that or have it brought back to us in the coming weeks. And I'd also like to thank our Senator Anthony Portantino. There was a press release this morning announcing him securing, was it $9 million? $9 million, $8 million? $8 million dollars for the Rockhaven Sanitarium, which is a tremendous accomplishment. It will help us hopefully reach our goals of preserving that. And lastly, I know that we're having our fireworks show here in the downtown. I encourage folks to attend, but I also encourage folks who may not be able to make it to that to consider going to the CV fireworks event, also a free event that's taking place. And wish everyone a happy and safe July 4th. We now have 2 fireworks shows within and close to the city, so no need for amateur fireworks shows in people's backyards. They can have a very negative adverse effect on house pets, on horses in the Rancho area. So I want to encourage everyone to be safe, go to one of these sanctioned, approved events, and not try to put on a fireworks show yourself in your driveway or at your home. Thank you. That is all.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to give kudos to members of our staff, Elena Babalian and her staff at the Innovation Department. She and her staff of 12 did a presentation for Bloomberg Philanthropics, and I see Dave Jones is in the audience, and he was part of that path to innovation regarding our food recovery program and how they're planning on progressing this, the whole process on food generators, food partners, distribution of the food. It was very impressive, and I just want to say that I know our city manager was there on the Zoom as well, and we were all impressed. And so I want to thank her and her staff for making us proud that day. I have to say, that was for the Bloomberg Philanthropics. I attended yesterday afternoon the installation at Adams Square Mini Park, an art installation. It's called Wandering the City. It's absolutely adorable. It's in the gas station. So if you get a chance, go by. They say that at night it's really impressive. And what you have to think about is as you walk around the gas station that you are wandering around a city. So everything changes as you move around the city. So I suggest congratulations to them. They had a big crowd. It was really a fun event to open this installation. Finally, I have suggested, and talking about the mobile vaccines, I've asked the fire chief and maybe staff to look into a mobile vaccination station on July 4th when we're having the fireworks, or before, like maybe a couple hours before at Central Park, or somewhere we're going to have a lot of people here from out of our city, from the city, and I think if we can work on doing something like this mobile vaccine clinic where there is a big gathering, and I think this would be a perfect place. So I hope that we can arrange that. I know that you'll try, and fingers crossed, because I was very disappointed, as Councilmember Brotman was as well, in the numbers that we're only at like 51%, and we're way behind the county and the state, and it's very sad. And I just want to let everybody know that, please, with this new variation, it's attacking those that are not vaccinated, and they are getting very ill. And so I just hope that you're listening and that you will do everything you can to get the vaccine. So hopefully we can work on something like that and see it happen on the 4th of July. That's all I have. Thank you. Staff, any comments?
The
Yes,
one
Mr.
thing, regarding the vaccinations, I know that some agencies, I know the state is doing a lottery, they're awarding money, and I think I even saw a vacation as one of the prizes. It might be something for us to consider as well, maybe quite not as extravagant as our neighbors and other agencies have, but something like $1,000 that may help a family or someone that has been a bit down on their luck through this crisis. I
Boy,
would
I'm
like to
really
suggest
cheap.
that.
I was thinking a $5 gift card, but
Well, I mean, the key is,
lottery, and then you
no, a
enter.
lottery,
Yeah,
not,
or a
not obviously not
lottery, yes.
$1,000 to everyone who shows up to get vaccinated. I think then we'll maybe have people trying to get double vaccinated. But certainly something that could incentivize folks turning out and having a similar drawing.
I would second
For
that
folks.
if you're suggesting that.
Yeah.
I would suggest that if we can, maybe even when we do the mobile in the downtown by the Americana or something on that particular date, July 11th, wasn't it?
That's at St. Mary's.
St. Mary's.
Yes, we're
or-
working on the downtown site for
that's
the
right. Okay,
future.
okay,
But
but
we
we-
have, Councilmember Kasakian, staff and I have been mulling around that idea.
Great.
I think it's a great idea. We'll continue working on it.
Great, okay. All righty, let's move on to community, oh, I'm sorry, Barb?
Yes, next item is community event announcements. It's 3-minute portion. I already have 5 callers waiting on the line.
Okay, let's hear 'em.
Jackie Gish. Jackie, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, so I wanted to address the same vaccination thing, some of which has been brought up, but I'm going to go ahead and read what I had written anyway. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I am very concerned about the vaccination rate in Glendale. For seniors 65 and up, Glendale is at 71% for the first shot, LA County at 87%. So Glendale is trailing LA County by 16%, and we're trailing Burbank and Pasadena as well. The Delta variant is, of course, spreading and is considerably more easily spread than prior versions. I don't know if Glendale fully understands why we are trailing so badly and what this might mean for our hospitals and the city at large later this summer and fall. I know Glendale had a big vaccination center at the college, but the zip codes with the lowest vaccination rate are 91201, 91204, and 91205, which are not close at all to the college. These zip codes even had the lowest vaccination rates way before the vaccination center was opening. So I'm happy to see that there's some partnering with churches, but I think you need to do more with churches, religious leaders, radio and TV channels, including perhaps your radio program, Councilmember Agajanian, community organizations, schools, mobile vaccination stations, going to parks, schools, churches, partnering with physicians and barbers, as other organizations are doing, and incentives, as Mayor Devine just brought up. All of these are things that we should be doing. I've heard that LAPD and LAFD have low vaccination rates. Does Glendale know what the vaccination rates for GPD and GFD are? And are the non-vaccinated firefighters and police officers wearing masks when interacting with the public at all times? Because they should be. San Francisco just passed a law requiring vaccinations for all city employees who don't have a medical or religious exemption once the vaccines are fully approved. Is Glendale planning to do this? If not, why not? It is critically important to increase vaccination rates to protect those amongst us who can't get the vaccine or who don't develop sufficient antibodies due to immune disorders or other medical issues. My daughter falls into this category, and other close friends of mine as well. So I would appreciate hearing answers to these questions and understanding everything that Glendale plans to do, how to get publicity out from the city council, from the city staff, and all of that to dramatically improve our vaccination rates and to protect everyone in our community. Thank you.
May I
Yes.
follow up on that?
Councilmember.
Could we, I don't know if you're able to give an answer now or you'll come back, but vaccination rates among staff, among different departments, that is something we're hearing more and more about. hospitals, schools mandating, once the vaccine is fully approved by the FDA. I don't know that I'm right there yet, but I think it's something we should be considering so that the numbers would be a good starting point. Do we have them?
We have them, Madam Mayor, Member of City Council, Councilman Brotman. I will have to look that up and bring it back to you if that's your desire.
Okay, thank you.
Next caller, please.
Moses Castillo. Moses, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My name is Moses Castillo. I'm a LA County stakeholder. I work in downtown Glendale. I'm also a Marcy's Law representative and a retired LAPD detective. Marcy's Law is a codified law, a victim bill of rights in our California Constitution. I'm urging the City Council and the Mayor to please put on your agenda for next meeting so that you could take the issue of a vote of no confidence on District Attorney George Gascon for failing to advocate for victims. He's advocating more for criminals. Our law firm has been advocating for victims because George Gascon's policies and directives have stripped away the ability of a prosecutor to advocate for their victims. We get phone calls day in, day out asking us to jump in and represent these victims, and we've been doing so free of charge. My boss, Attorney Samuel Jordulian, is a long-time resident of Glendale, and he would also urge you to take this issue and vote no confidence. I'll give you some examples of what's been happening in the courtroom. George Gascon, for instance, there was a murder of this 66-year-old lady in San Dimas area where she was stabbed many times and murdered in the commission of a robbery where her dog was also stabbed. And in that particular case, no special circumstances or allegations were charged, which would greatly impact that case. The commission of there was a robbery in the commission of this murder, and that was in charge. God forbid that something like that would happen here in Glendale. We had 3 children that were murdered in East Los Angeles at the hands of their mother. And his policies will say that they can only charge special circumstances. When you have more than one victim, that's a special circumstance that could be charged. He's not going to do that in that case. We're talking about victims, children. They matter. Please let your residents know. Let your residents know where you stand, that you put victims first. And I hope that you consider putting this on your agenda and vote on no confidence on Mr. George Gascon because he's a danger to our communities. And I do appreciate your first steps where you are exploring the idea of your city council pursuing criminal charges where he is not. And that is a good step in the right direction, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Next.
Rachel Siegel, you're live. Rachel, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Rachel Siegel. I'm a Glendale resident. I have lived in Glendale for almost 20 years now, and I live up by Brand Park. My concern has to do with the increase in air traffic over our neighborhood. I have been tracking it on flight radar, and there's multiple flights, an average of every 3 to 4 minutes, going all hours of the day into the night, even last night, midnight, late into the night. And it's really to the point where it's disrupting the quiet of the neighborhood. And I'm wondering what the city of Glendale is planning to do about this, because it just feels like we're living by a freeway at this point, and something needs to be done. I know a couple of you have been on the Burbank Airport Commission, so I don't know if you can, shed some light on things that are being done. I know there's been some other communities in the area also complaining about this, Studio City, Sherman Oaks, but I'd like to know in particular what Glendale is going to do to reduce the air traffic over these neighborhoods, because apparently we're at a hub, and you can just see it if you look on one of these flight apps, how many flights and how often they're flying. So I would be interested to hear any thoughts you have on this.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Rachel. I think you sent me an email, or someone sent me an email, and I did contact Frank Miller, who is the CEO at the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport, and ask him to look into this. So I'm awaiting for his response. So we're looking into it, what's going on. Because it seems to be a change. We're seeing that everywhere. Thank you. Next caller.
Next caller, I don't have a name for. Hello, caller number
Anonymous?
4. You are anonymous. You haven't stated your name. You have 3 minutes. You can go ahead. Hello?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes. I've been a resident for 33 years. I want to preface this by saying that I love Glendale, as I'm sure all of us here do.
Can you give us your name, please?
Oh, Alexis Thompson.
Thank you.
So back to what the other caller was saying, this is about George Gascon. 22 cities have voted no confidence. So my question to you all is, why hasn't Glendale discussed this so far? You know, this jewel city isn't going to remain as shiny and clean and pristine as it is with another 3 years of this individual as the head district attorney. I would urge you all to research, speak to fellow council members from neighboring towns, and ask, why is this happening? This is the first time in the history of any elected district attorney. Again, the first time in history that 22 cities have voted no confidence. It's the first time in history that any city council has voted no confidence in a district attorney. I am one of the volunteers that's out there every weekend, tabling, trying to gather as many signatures as we can. I'm going to be doing that until October, and we're getting so much support from everyone in Glendale. And this is something that I think that our local members, our council members, should be discussing this. And I'm happy that this is now getting some publicity. But just ask yourselves why these 22 cities have taken this vote and what it means that this is the first time in history that this is happening. And another thing I'd like to add is Glendale PD is one of the greatest law enforcement agencies, I would say, in LA County, but their hands soon are going to be tied. They're not going to go out there doing active patrol work when they know that all the work that they're doing is not going to get them any prosecutions. Their filings are going to be down, and Gascon just is not in it for the right reasons. He's not protecting victims, and it's very clear that he's giving a free pass to criminals. And as a resident of Glendale, I fear for my safety, I fear for my family's safety, I fear for everyone's safety who lives in Glendale, and I don't want to see Glendale go down the drain. I want it to stay as an amazing city as it is, and I truly, truly think that this is not going to happen with someone like Gascon in office. He ruined San Francisco, and I'm sad to say that LA County is very much going to be next. So this recall effort is happening, but aside from that, I think that the city council needs to take a position on this, and I would just urge you all to look into it and see why the other councils have taken this vote. Thank you.
Karen Roseberry, you have 3 minutes. Karen, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to address the council and appreciate the previous speakers who've also been referencing the efforts to take up a no confidence vote in DA Gascon. There have been 22 other cities that have done so, and I appreciate that the Glendale City Council is being measured in their response as they look to see as they look to see what actions their city council can take or their city attorney can take in this effort. But there is the case that it should not rest with the city attorney to see the laws of Los Angeles County actually being enforced. And when we have a district attorney who unilaterally and individually has taken it upon himself to issue a series of directives that undermine the ability for the rule of law to be enforced, there is a necessity to hold such an individual accountable for those actions. And it is certainly within the realm of authority of the city councils of each city within Los Angeles County to look to their own constituents and their safety first and foremost. That is definitely the utmost important to each city council member, and public safety remains one of the top issues for every elected official. And when the public safety of the residents and visitors of the city of Glendale is being jeopardized by the fact that laws are not being upheld and prosecution of crime is not taking place, then the need for the city council to speak, to act boldly, comes and rests at your door. So thank you so much for even being willing to broach the discussion of what the city council can do for a response to these directives by Gascon that are outside of the scope of his authority, in the fact that there are just laws that are not being upheld. That is the utmost responsibility of the district attorney, is to ensure that the law is enforced. And when there's a district attorney who does not actually prosecute crime and does not actually enforce the law, that's why we are seeing these 22 cities having taken up a vote of no confidence. And we see other cities like West Covina sending letters to the district attorney, making a notice of the concerns and the demands against those directives. And we see neighborhood councils that are rising up as well, asking for this matter to be addressed. And so, again, we now bring to the Glendale City Council the same request that on a subsequent agenda that there could be a no confidence vote considered as well. So thank you so much, and I hope that there's a profitable and fruitful discussion, and that from that we may even be able to move forward with a no confidence vote for the city of Glendale against DA Gascon.
Thank you, Karen. Is she the last caller?
She was. That was 5 altogether.
Thank you so much. What's next, please?
Next would be 8 would be action items. 8A, community development regarding potential initiation of a Glendale Municipal Code 1995 amendment related to urban beekeeping in residential zones. 1, motion to initiate code amendment related to urban beekeeping. 2, motion to note and file report.
Thank you. Mr. Galanian?
Yes. Mayor, Divine Member, City Council, this item was presented to you previously sometime last year, and direction was given to staff to deliver or make the presentation to the Sustainability Commission, and staff has done so, and they have generated a recommendation for council's consideration. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Asp, our principal planner, to provide this item for you for review and direction.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm actually here just to introduce Ani Garibian. She is the associate planner who did a lot of the heavy lifting for this, and she is just going to briefly cover our current rules and practices, some basics and background about urban beekeeping, concerns to consider, and then a brief summary of other jurisdictions. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Devine and members of council. Currently, apiaries are permitted in special recreation SR zones, as you can see in the green. These are public-private open spaces consisting of parks, the Oakmont and Chevy Chase golf courses, and the majority of open spaces on hillsides, such as the Verdugo Mountains, Glen Oaks, and Chevy Chase Canyons.
Yeah.
We're good now?
Let's bring this a little closer.
Okay. Community Services and Parks makes 3 locations available for beekeeping, and they're near the sports complex, the Mayor's Bicentennial Park, and areas off of Camino San Rafael. Each site has a licensed tenant and allows up to 100 hives that are not for commercial operators, and there is currently a waiting list of 5 users who wish to use these sites. These sites were identified using basic criteria such as be away from residential areas, be away from active, passive, developed park areas and trails, be limited to authorized personnel and vehicles only, have vehicular access away from trails. There's also a request for more locations for beehives have been made, but meeting the criteria has not been feasible. The decline in numbers of honeybees has generated more interest in bees and urban beekeeping. Bees are kept in boxed hives that have removable frames inside. They can weigh up to 50 pounds and have up to 60 to 80,000 honeybees in each. In general, bees travel 3 to 5 miles for food, and a hive can, on average, make about 25 pounds of honey a year. There are some concerns for urban beekeeping, and these include potential aggression, swarming, and stings. Also, unattended hives can lead to Africanized bees taking over and swarms looking for food and water. Additional concerns are related to the elevation and grade differences. The city of Glendale has many single-family hillside lots. Some of the best practices include 6-foot fence or hedge barriers that are designed to avoid bee and human level interaction, but this may not be enough. The City of Los Angeles' regulation states that hives must be 8 feet above neighboring lots. However, this may be not be attainable for all hillside properties. There are some best practices when it comes to urban beekeeping. This begins with careful hive placement, that there is good water source on site, that there's adequate distance from the public, and that there are at least 6-foot barriers for the hives, or, excuse me, place hives at least 8 feet above ground from the adjoining lot. Hives should be requeened regularly and ensure that the hives are always maintained. So staff surveyed other cities on their beekeeping regulations. There is a more comprehensive chart in the staff report, but here's a summary. Some neighboring jurisdictions do not allow urban beekeeping in single-family zones. However, the City of Los Angeles, Santa Monica, and the City of San Diego do allow urban beekeeping in single-family zones. Additionally, considerations of urban beekeeping standards to minimize encounters between bees and humans could include limiting to single-family zones, limit the maximum number of placement of hives. Another consideration would be to expand beekeeping opportunities on other sites, such as the SR properties. Having fence hedge barriers or grade differences to direct bees up and out to forage, minimizing contact at human level is another urban beekeeping good practice. Other considerations include hive maintenance, food and water source on site, requeening, adequate space, an application or registration process with initial inspection. Currently, though, staff does not have the capacity or expertise to administer an urban beekeeping program. Cost to consider would depend on application registration fees and staff training or contract costs with other agencies. Some alternatives for this evening are to note and file, review potential changes and consider initiation of code amendment, reevaluate relaxed criteria for sitting apiaries on community parks, community service and parks properties, any other alternatives that were not presented to you today. And that concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll go to my colleagues. You have comments, questions?
I have a question. Or
Councilmember
comments, if I
Brotman?
might. Yeah, because you mentioned, or the report says staff does not have the capacity, resources, expertise to administer, monitor, and enforce an effective urban beekeeping program. We got an email, and I don't even know who this person is, but she says that the Los Angeles County Department of Agriculture already provides a service to all cities within the county. So it's unnecessary for the city of Glendale to duplicate these services. There would be no additional cost if the city were to pass the motion to allow for urban beekeeping. Do you know anything about this?
So LA County does inspect, but they cannot enforce. It would be under the city to enforce or to cite.
Okay. Because there was something else. Okay, well, go ahead, because I saw something else here I wanted to ask you about. Oh, here, yeah. It says, there's more on that. It says that they will respond to all bee nuisances.
Yes.
Right. And if there is somebody that is not registered, they don't have the proper permits, then they will let the city know.
Yes.
Right. Or if there's, a problem, if they don't have the water source or they're doing something wrong, they will let us know?
Yes,
Is
they
that
will
what-
inform us.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then we just, basically at that point, we would need to follow up on enforcement.
Right.
Okay. But we don't need to have the expertise to know whether a particular beekeeper's, doing things properly. That's something that they would
They do that.
for
Mhm.
us. Okay. Okay. Yeah, because the person that wrote, and I think you all got this message, it was interesting and talked about, she spoke to the inspector from the county who handles these kinds of situations, and it sounds like there are, given the size of the county, not that many complaints. He said in 2020, there were 36 complaints, but 26 of them were for unregistered hives.
Right.
And,
Well, the only problem is that there's only one inspector.
Yep.
There's only one inspector for the county.
yeah, but they're not that many, it seems like they're not that
None.
many,
Yes, they
not
said
that
none.
many calls,
That's
so
right.
probably that's enough,
That's right.
But anyway, I just wanted that to be clear, because it sounds like there's not a lot that we need to do.
Right, they'll inspect for us, but they just can't enforce the citation.
Right.
Any other comments from my Councilmember Kasakian?
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Grabian, for this report. I'm a supporter of people having apiaries in the city, obviously within reason and taking into consideration certain things. Would you say that there are people who have apiaries right now that are under the radar? They have them in the city, they're raising bees.
Yeah, probably.
In terms of how bees behave, and I don't know if you can speak to this or if someone can, is there a particular time of year when they swarm or they try to find a place to establish a hive? And does that happen with bees that already have a pre-made apiary, a hive on premises?
So I'm not quite an expert, but from my research, if the hive is not maintained well, there's a tendency to swarm. If they don't have the food or water nearby, they'll swarm. If the queen dies, they will swarm trying to find another queen. It just, usually when the apiary is well maintained, this doesn't happen.
Yeah, and even with swarming, their intent is not to attack or, if a bee attacks you, it's basically committing suicide. We all learned that from a very early age.
Yeah, they're very vulnerable when they're swarming.
It's a kamikaze attack.
Yeah, I guess. So they're actually more gentle when they're swarming.
Yeah.
But could I just follow up on that? So
Yes.
swarming doesn't mean they're attacking you. Swarming
No.
just means
Yeah.
they're out looking.
They're
for-
looking to establish
Okay.
their next.
Right.
Because when people hear that, when I
Food
first
source.
heard
Their
swarming,
food
I
source.
think, wow, they're gonna go after, that's not.
Right, but
What?
Africanized bees are different from.
But I
the
can tell
honey.
you from personal experience, it can be an alarming experience
Yeah.
because it is a very loud sound as there's a mass of bees. It's like what you see in the old Looney Tunes cartoons. It looks
Well.
like a cloud almost hovering. We had that happen at our home as they were looking up and down the street to establish a hive.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I think we've watched a lot of movies on bees and swarming, and we have callers, so please.
Currently, I have 4 calls.
Okay, let's hear them.
Keith Roberts, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Hello there. Thank you for taking my call. My name is Keith Roberts, and I'm a former president of the Los Angeles County Beekeepers Association, and I'm also one of the owners of the Valley Hive, a beekeeping resource supply center over in Chatsworth. With all due respect to the research report, there was a lot in that report that was wrong, incorrect, and downright concerning. Bees don't swarm to find another queen. That's not the way it works. I would love to speak to the council or anybody that would be interested to get some of these facts straight. The organization that I belong to goes back to 1873. So this whole area has a long and storied history with beekeeping. Also, with those 36 complaints that you mentioned, I would challenge you to compare that to how many dog complaints that you had. How many people were bitten by dogs? I can guarantee you it's going to be quite a disparity, because keeping bees is substantially safer. It isn't nearly as dangerous as people believe. There is a lot, it's very much a self-regulatory group. In Los Angeles, there doesn't need to be, with a county of 10 million people, they seem to be doing just fine. Noriel has been very attentive, and this system has been working really well. And I think that Glendale would benefit to stand behind this ancient craft that goes back some 10,000 years, and for these bees that are responsible for 30% of everything that we eat. I think that urban beekeeping is going to do very well in Glendale, and I really don't anticipate you guys to have the type of problems that were mentioned during that report.
Thank you. Next caller.
Lida Shabastari. Lida, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Madam Mayor and distinguished City Council members. My name is Lydia Shabastari. I'm a 26-year resident of the City of Glendale. I was the individual who sent you the documentation and provided some factual information to help you understand the world of beekeeping a little bit better. I had some prepared remarks, but I want to clear up some misconceptions that were included in the report. First and foremost, as of yesterday, June 28th, we now have 69 cities in LA County that allow for urban beekeeping. El Segundo came on board yesterday. Beekeeping is a safe practice. We raise gentle genetic stock of European honeybees to increase the population that is threatened. Our main incentive is not to have hives to collect honey, but in fact is to help protect this species that is under serious decline. Every year, beekeepers lose up to 40% of our hives due to pesticide use and varroa mites that attack bees and other diseases. So we have a big challenge ahead of us, but those that keep bees are very committed to it. When cities enact measurements to allow for urban beekeeping, residents are more apt to follow the laws and use best beekeeping methods to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods, while also improving the ecosystem of our community. It truly is a community service. In regards to the SR zone, I have been told by other beekeepers who one of those is in one of the sites that the majority of the bees in those areas are Africanized. Our bees are European Italian bees that we pay $250 for one pack that begins a hive. It's an expensive endeavor, but we're committed to raising Italian bees rather than capturing feral bees because we want to promote this species. Everyone and everything benefits from beekeeping. City trees and shrubs grow bigger due to pollination, as well as our food sources, local backyard gardens, as well as farms. Contributing to our environment's health and well-being, no matter the size of the contribution, is meaningful and essential to all of our futures. I also want to close by saying that the LA County Agricultural Department is charged by LA County to provide annual licensure, to respond to bee calls, to issue citations, and to enforce the law. There is a scale of, upon each infraction, the fines continue to grow. If a person is non-compliant,
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you,
they remove the hive.
Lida.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Tom Metzler. Tom, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening.
My name is Tom Metzler. I've been a resident of Glendale for the last 42 years, and I operate the Metzler Violin Shop on South Central Avenue. But tonight I'd like to weigh in on the question of backyard beekeeping in the city of Glendale. Trees, flowers, fruits, nuts, and vegetables all depend on honeybees for pollination. Having bees around would help Glendale yards look better and their vegetable gardens grow stronger. Beekeepers tend to plant lush gardens themselves, which in turn attract hummingbirds and butterflies. Biodiversity would flourish. Due to pesticides, climate change, and other factors, the world has been experiencing honeybee colony collapse for many years now. For example, in 2015 alone, 42% of the honeybee colonies in the United States died off. Interestingly, it is urban backyard beekeepers who are starting to reverse this trend. So why is there opposition to urban beekeeping? Please don't give in to ignorance and fear. Most people who get stung are actually stung by yellow jackets, not honeybees. Communities who have relaxed prohibitions against beekeeping have experienced very few problems. Honeybees are typically gentle insects and only sting when provoked. Most bee stocks that suburban beekeepers keep have been bred for gentleness. So I would like to urge the council to vote to amend the city ordinances to allow for backyard beekeeping. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth Askren, you have 3 minutes. Ruth, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ruth, and I'm a resident of the city of Los Angeles. I've been a beekeeper since 2009, and I just wanted to address a couple of things that there are a few discrepancies. The person who read the very in-depth research that was done mentioned the requirement for an 8-foot high fence in the city of Los Angeles, or sorry, not a fence, but that the hives are supposed to be 8 feet off the ground. That is not true. In Los Angeles, on the typical 5,000 square foot lot, hives must be a minimum of 5 feet away from any neighboring fence. But there's no requirement for the hives to be 8 feet off the ground. I just wanted to mention that because I know there was a lot of contention about the 8-foot high requirement on hillsides. So then the other thing I wanted to address is the issue of enforcement. So I have 2021 statistics from Inspector Noriel Reyes at the Department of Agriculture, the LA County Department of Agriculture. And in this year of 2021, so far there have been 13 complaints about beehives. Only 2 of those complaints were from registered hives, were regarding hives that were registered with the county. So having hive registration and allowing beekeeping in a legal framework gives people who want to keep bees a way to easily access best practices management and to have a sort of a hopeful governing body to refer to, in addition to the Los Angeles County Beekeepers Association, to refer to for help in making good judgments in their beekeeping. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you.
Phoebe Piper, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. My name is Phoebe Piper. I own a beekeeping company in Los Angeles County. We maintain hives on people's property, so we're dealing with exactly this thing. And I can say that from my experience with the 130 hives that I have around the area, it's perfectly safe, even in close proximity to people, especially when people know what they're doing. And there are so many resources around this area as well, including the Los Angeles County Beekeepers Association, as well as Beekeeping 101 provided by the Valley Hive. There's lots of places to learn, and it's just a very safe practice. So I certainly support beekeeping in Glendale backyards. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, that was the last of the callers. Would you want me to still
Okay,
keep the
thank you.
lines
No,
open for this item?
I think we're pretty
We're-
well set with phone calls.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call on my fellow council members to comment if they have any comments, or else I will go ahead and.
I would like to see us allow beekeeping within the city, as long as, I don't know if I'm okay with people having it be like a home cottage industry, but I think that, having between 1 or 2 beehives, and then for anyone who wants to have anything beyond that, to find ways to make more of our publicly available land available to them. I think that's where actually it would also have a great benefit. And certainly it looks like the county is able to inspect and approve those. And I think it's a positive step towards fighting a major crisis with bee colony collapse, which is an actual thing. It's not some sort of made-up imaginary crisis. Bees are incredibly critical to our ecosystem and to our communities, and having them is a benefit. I do understand the health concerns. I've heard from folks who are concerned, safety issues, but having, living next to someone who has just 1 hive or maybe 2 and follows the rules and guidelines, I don't think will cause any harm. Obviously, it's happening right now, and we haven't had any incidents, knock on wood. So that's where I'm at, Madam Mayor and Council.
Najarian?
So I hope it went well with the Sustainability Commission. That was my bright idea. I'm sure they enjoyed getting into it. David, is that the general sense of how it went?
They did. They had a lot of fun researching the topic and coming
I knew
back.
they would. That's a commission that's itching to get to work.
And they came back with a list of 13 recommendations, which are Exhibit 1, which I think, if followed, will allow for safe beekeeping within the city of Glendale. But yes, they took charge, and they did a lot of research, and yes, they enjoyed the process.
Good.
And they were unanimous, were they not?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, and I do respect their hard work. Madam Mayor, I'm definitely in support of this. Perhaps, so this is direction to come back with a possible ordinance amendment. And maybe the best way to do this is to have it by way of a CUP, where certain standards would be required before permission granted. I leave that to the planners, though, because that's, certainly we talked about distances, the wall height, and other sort of conditions. I think if you could help us with that and find the best way to implement such a beekeeping process in the single, in the R1. SR is where it's permitted. We're thinking of putting it in the R1R zones, or R1 or R1R. Right, R1R is the hillside.
In all the single-family zones, so R1, R1R, and ROS.
And
So
ROS.
that's the flatland single-family and hillside single-family.
So I would support
Okay.
moving forward.
Councilmember Agajanian, any comments? Okay, I'm for this, and.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Excuse me,
Oh, I don't know
I'm
if you
sorry.
wanted to go last. I can go after
No,
you.
go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, I am in support of allowing backyard beekeeping, and echoing what we heard from the callers and from Councilmember Kasakian. I think we need to support bee populations. It's going to be good for the city, they're beneficial, and we know that biodiversity is critical, and we're losing it, so I support that. And I would, just in terms of the number of hives, I know, I believe this is right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but LA allows 1 hive for every 2,500 square feet. So in a typical, let's say a 5,000 square foot lot, you would be allowed to have 2. And I think that formula is probably the right formula. You know, if somebody has a very big lot and they're like a real hobbyist and they want more, that should be okay too, but, you know, not too many in a small space. So I would be for that.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I just want to say that kudos to the Sustainability Commission, because I think their proposed revisions are excellent. I think they covered just about everything. I would add the 5 foot above ground level, a 6 foot fence or wall to direct the bees upward. I think that's, and I'm really happy, I have to tell you, that they have in their revisions that the applicants must be credentialed or have some sort of education before they're allowed to put the beehives in their backyards. I think that's really vital. I think there's a credential that they can get. It's online and probably fairly easy, but I think that definitely has to be a part. I think this is vital to our plant species, to our vegetables, our flowers, for everything. And the gentleman was talking about if you've had opposition to this. I've had no opposition. Every email I've gotten, and this is one of the rare occasions that every email I have gotten has been in favor of this ordinance. So with that, I hope you have enough direction. Yes,
Madam
Councilmember Agajanian.
Mayor, did you say 5 feet high or 8?
It could be 5 or 8. I'll leave that up to our
5 is
planner. Okay, so 8
it's
feet would be, yeah. I originally had 8, and I just
Yeah.
changed that to 5 when I looked at LA.
No,
You're
It
right.
should be 8.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
Because 5 is,
Yes, yes. And the credential or the training for a beekeeper must be required. And so do you have enough direction from council? Do I have a motion on this, please?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Roll call, please.
And just, this is 8A1, so the motion to direct to initiate.
Yes, correct.
Councilmember Agajanian,
yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item is 8B, Glendale Water and Power, regarding Glendale Water and Power Energy Risk Management Policy, Trading Authority Policy, and Annual Authority for the purchase or sale of energy services. One motion approving amendments to the GWP Energy Risk Management Policy. 2, motion approving amendments to GWP Trading Authority Policy. 3, resolution approving renewal of annual authorization for the city manager or GWP general manager or designees to enter into contract for the purchase or sale of energy commodities and services not to exceed 5 years in duration and dispensing with competitive bidding.
Thank you. Mr. Galani?
Yes, Mayor, Divine Members, City Council, I'm going to go directly to Howard Wong, our Energy Risk Manager. This is rather a complex topic, but he's going to do his best to simplify it for us and put it in layman's terms, and we'll open it up for questions.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Devine and members of City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information with you tonight. So I'm going to share the notable changes to the GWP Energy Risk Management Policy and Trading Authority Policy. In order to address market changes and new risk exposures, as required, we review the Energy Risk Management Policy and Trading Authority Policy annually with updates as necessary. We also ask for City Council approval to dispense with competitive bidding and grant the city manager and general manager authority to enter into energy and service-related agreements not to exceed 5 years in term and within limits outlined within the Trading Authority Policy under Article 6, Section 9 of the City Charter. The Energy Risk Management Policy is designed to establish the framework to manage risks that are inherent to wholesale energy operations and markets. And with that, the Trading Authority Policy defines the authority granted by City Council to the city manager and GWP general manager to execute energy-related transactions, then delegate those trading functions down to staff within the defined limits. So GWP staff frequently refers back to these policies for guidance when making decisions. They help address risk exposures and identify the tolerances of City Council for the city of Glendale. The last time we updated the Energy Risk Management Policy was in 2019, and we did make updates to the Trading Authority Policy last year, which did include adding low carbon fuel standard credits as a tradable commodity, and this is for vehicle purchase rebates and the ability to provide additional charging stations for the city of Glendale. So those are the type of changes that we would recommend. So moving on to the Energy Risk Management Policy, The first update is under the business objectives. So we do remove Dodd-Frank regulations as a primary objective, but we will address those appropriately through the appropriate accounting methods if we enter into any type of derivative transaction. We also are providing renewable and clean energy while reducing carbon and other emissions and protecting GWP systems, communications, and data against cybersecurity risks as a primary business objective. And you can definitely understand why. Under assignment of responsibilities, the organizational chart was revised to mirror the updates made to the Energy Risk Management Committee member and participant titles. And then under the GWP Energy Risk Management Committee structure, the ERMC structure was simplified by replacing the committee member roles previously designated as Chief Assistant General Manager, Deputy General Manager, and Integrated Resource Planning Administrator with just 2 job classifications. GWP Assistant General Manager for Supply, and then GWP Assistant General Manager for Business Services. The more extensive 2019 list of classifications was in response to a need to address the rapid change of roles and responsibilities within GWP at that time. In the proposed 2021 amendments, the GWP Integrated Resource Planning Administrator and Power Planning Manager are also added to the ERMC as non-voting participants. And then we also changed or updated the title for GWP Utility Business System Support Administrator.
Excuse me,
Yes.
what they are showing is not matching with what you are reading.
I'm clicking it.
Okay, but it was late anyway.
Sorry, maybe I'm talking too fast.
No, but what they were
Oh, I
showing
do,
was not
I do.
matching with what you're saying.
I saw it moving, so I thought you were maybe doing it for me. Let's see. Here we go, right here. So the first 3 items I've covered already.
Yeah.
And then the last item under, the last on the slide, meeting time, frequency, and voting procedure. So to better meet the requirements of the policy, the risk committee meeting frequency minimum was reduced from 2 to 1 per quarter. While it's the intention of the committee to meet once per month on occasion, and due to scheduling conflicts, meetings may be rescheduled into the next quarter. So last year, we had a meeting every quarter, or every month, but then the last week of the month, scheduling conflicts, and then we happen to have 2 in 1 month. So that's the purpose of that change. A designee may also may vote or attend if authorized for a member or participant if he or she is unable to attend. Some of the last items for the risk management policy. So again, we are updating the assistant general
You want
manager.
to move the slide again?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
It's my second time presenting.
read from your computer rather than your paper. So
Okay.
then will be correct.
Thank
But
you.
if you're reading from your, the brief you have, and on the computer is something else.
Okay, I'll try to make it more cohesive for you. So the Assistant General Manager for Supply and Business Services, we added the roles and responsibilities as it pertains to risk, just to mirror again the committee and the titles. We added the Integrated Resource Planning Administrator and their roles and responsibilities as it pertains to risk. Under the Energy Trading Manager, we did list all the staff underneath that particular position, but we identified that the duties are solely responsible of the manager, but then can be delegated down to staff. A Power Planning Manager was also added with roles and responsibilities, and then just a title update for the Utility Business System Support Administrator. Under the reporting section, we remove duplicate reporting accesses and also correct the originators in the table. Any questions there? I'll ask if anybody has questions at the end as well. Under the trading authority policy, so the first update is trading on premises section. So the revised policy allows for off-premise trading during extended circumstances for continued business operation and reliability. So this is in the direct response to remote work due to the COVID pandemic. And we are also allowing email confirmations to serve as recorded communication in the event of a dispute. Sometimes that occurs where you buy and sell electricity or natural gas. there could be a dispute on price or the volume, and that's where we would go for the record.
If I can ask?
Yes.
This kind of communication isn't going to make us at risk for cyber attacks or
No,
anything?
it's just email, and you know that it's coming. So the trader knows that they're coming from a specific company, like Conoco or LA, even LA County or LADWP. So they're expecting the email as we would send one to them as well. Normally, if they're in the office, it's a voice recording, so we have it as an audible type of system. The next section, authorized delivery location for power. The revised policy clarifies that the CAISO market is in the Western Electricity Coordinating Council or Western Interconnection System, so that's just a correction. And the city manager, general manager, or ERMC can approve transactions outside of those areas as necessary. Under firmness of power, and this might get a little bit confusing, the revised policy provides the ability to enter into transactions where supply and delivery firmness are not the same. At times, such as a resource testing or unit contingent situation, it may be necessary to execute the energy sale or purchase for portfolio reliability and optimization, even where firmness of supply and delivery are not the same.
Are you on the right page again?
Yes, this is firmness of power, the third item.
Fitness, okay, firmness of power, got it.
Correct. So the revised policy will allow this as long as sufficient reserves are in place. The transaction details must be logged in the operations record system, and the city manager and general manager can approve exception to this policy as well. The next item, transmission service firmness and volume. So again, similarly, where transmission purchase and associated energies firmness are not the same. With limited transmission capabilities, this allows for the use of less firm transmission to execute energy purchases or sales for portfolio reliability and optimization as long as sufficient reserves are in place. Information transaction details must be logged, and the city manager and general manager can approve this exception as well. And then the last item, authorized delivery location for natural gas. The revised policy indicates that financial natural gas transactions can occur at locations not listed in the policy, only if transportation to deliver the physical natural gas is available. And this allows for additional financial hedging opportunities. So the last four items provides flexibility and addresses liquidity issues in bilateral market, since a lot of utilities are joining the EIM, such as LA. Bilateral markets is kind of drying up, so this provides more flexibility and more opportunities if needed. And then, so let me ask, do you have any questions regarding the trading authority policy?
No. This is very complicated,
Yes,
I'm
it
sorry,
is.
so that's why.
That's why I'm here for you. And then the last item, dispensing with bidding and annual authorization. This happens annually so that traders can make trades timely. I compare this to stock trading. You wouldn't go to competitive bidding for stock trading, but there is a natural process within the trading market where they do survey the market and pick the best price out of 3, 4, 5 utilities, or they're done on an exchange where a broker has already filtered out the best prices for you. So it kind of happens already. So we're asking for that approval. Any other questions? Sorry about the
I
presentation.
remember Steve Zern coming to us and speaking about this whole process. Do I have a motion to, is this, let's see, where am I?
Move the item.
Well, it would
And
be
by the way-
B 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Oh,
By the way,
2.
you have done very good
Number
job.
2.
Thank
Yes,
you.
we have,
Regardless, I don't know how many times you did. Just, it will be better not to read from your notes and read from the computer, so then it will not be difficult to follow.
I'll do better next time,
I'm sure.
next year.
Thank you.
Okay, see you next year. Okay. So we need a motion for B 1
Motion.
and 2.
And 3.
Yeah.
Well, 3 is a resolution. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second
Okay,
that
roll
motion.
call. Thank you.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
and Mayor Devine.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Next item, please.
Item C, Glendale Water and Power regarding dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing the one-year extension of a power line clearance, tree trimming, and removal services contract. One resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing a one-year extension of contract number C1062418 with West Coast Arborists Incorporated for power line clearance, tree trimming, and removal services for Glendale Water and Power for an amount not to exceed $2,500,000 for the one-year term through August 2022.
Thank you. Mr. Lanian?
Yes, Mayor, Devine, members, City Council, as you may know, one of the most common causes of unplanned outages to our electrical system is tree branches making contact with power lines. GWP has an ongoing program to trim trees and in some cases, remove trees from under and around overhead power lines. Per SB 901, GWP is also required to develop, maintain, and implement a formal wildfire mitigation plan. Back in July 2016, following a competitive bid process, City Council awarded a 5-year contract to West Coast Arborists for tree trimming and removal services. GWP staff is currently revising the current specifications to include attributes of this wildfire mitigation program, which were not included in the original specifications that was used for bids back in 2016. So we are recommending that the City Council authorize execution of an amendment to the contract with West Coast Arborists in the amount of $2.5 million and extend the contract term for an additional 1 year through August 2022. This will provide an opportunity to for staff to complete the specifications, bid it out, and bring it back for an award, recommendation of an award to City Council, and that will be for a 5-year term or period. If you'd like more details or have any other questions, Dan Scorza, our Chief Assistant General Manager, is available to respond.
I'm laughing because did you have a comment? Question, go ahead. Councilmember Agajanian.
I want him to come closer.
Okay.
Okay. My question is how this process works. I mean, this company, WCA, I understand. We are extending for 1 year and then we're going to go to competitive bidding, right? But how it works, let's say somebody goes street by street, looks the situation, because I don't know how you guys are doing this service. I mean, the company, how they are doing the service. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay. Yeah. Mayor Devine, City Council Member, Council Member Agajanian. What we have with West Coast Arborists is actually pretty detailed. We keep a database of all the trees that we cut. So we go back, depending on the type of tree, we would go back and trim it once a year or maybe every 2 years. So there's a database that's kept on all the trees. We have 2 staff members in GWP that their job is to work with West Coast Arborists to keep this database going. And there's inspections going on. We're always inspecting our power lines to make sure that they're clear. But there's an actual database that we go back. So it's not we don't wait to hear from say customers or people seeing that there's an issue. We actually do and inspect all our power line clearances and throughout our distribution and our higher voltage lines as well.
Okay, I'm trying to understand. So those trees which will get to the power lines, they have ID then, that you know each one, they have a record. So you know it has been trimmed 3 years ago, so it's the time to go and see if it's getting back to closer to the power line, right?
That's right. Yeah. So this is
only
based on
for those trees. You have all the information that has to do with the power line. We do not have any record of other trees which we have in the city?
It is only in our right-of-ways where our power lines are. So we keep excellent records on those. And they're updated. And, you know, as we inspect visually also. If things change, conditions change, if trees grows quicker or there's new vegetation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this contract, again, what we're asking for is a 1-year extension so that we can incorporate the latest information from our wildfire mitigation plan into the new specifications that are going to go out. And then we're going to go out for competitive bidding for 5 years. And any company that bids on this will have to have the same requirements. They have to keep the same information, and we have that information that will be given to them as well. But we will work in the same manner. There's detailed databases on all the trees that are trimmed on our right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm kind of laughing because this is $2.5 million for, I said I could go out and trim those trees for $2.5 million. I could do, I'd be willing. No, I'm kidding. I have one request though, and maybe you can speak with the company that does this service for us. Up in the Whiting Woods area, some of the neighbors were telling me that when the tree company comes in, they just trim them like straight across, and it looks, they don't like that. You know, if they could be a little more creative and, you know, just kind of, you know, not flatten them exactly, but, you know, kind of, so they look natural.
Sure.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah. Mayor Devine, City Council members, you know, one of the things we can mention is to our supervision staff that works with them. We can mention the aesthetics parts of it. Again, it's a clearance around the power line so that they don't grow into it. It depends on the voltage that we have. I don't remember exactly the radius we do. It's about 8 to 10 feet away, so that you know, we give it enough time so we do come back in a year. You know, a year's I believe the most common time that we go back. Some trees don't grow as fast. Maybe 2 years may be sufficient. But again, it just depends on the type of tree that we have. And I will mention to my supervision staff and managers, we'll talk to them about that.
Okay,
You
that
know,
was the
to make
only
it more
place
aesthetic.
that was the only area that mentioned anything about it.
Have you seen Edward Scissorhands?
Yeah.
Something in that
That's right.
genre.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we get it for $2.5 million.
Yeah,
The $2.5 million is because it is hazardous work. It is high voltage. It is very dangerous.
Sure.
And their pay and training is based upon the line series, the guys who climb the poles and work on this equipment hot. And that's how they're certified to do this. That's why it's expensive.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, the artistic part may be a little more.
Okay.
We'll have to see if we
Skip
can
that
add
part.
something to our specs.
But
Thank you
I
very
will-
much for
what
that
she said.
explanation.
Thank you, and I think that it is a high cost, but for those who are watching, who have seen or have read the news when there's these power line fires that are maybe initiated or start at these power lines, this is a good expense for us to secure. This company, I know, does work with all of the major private utility companies, does work with Edison and others, so I'm comfortable voting for this. I want to thank you. I think also we should give credit to the people who, when they planned out the city, decided to put a lot of the power lines on the back of properties versus in LA where you see a lot of them on the front side of the homes. Not only does it not look very attractive, but it also causes a lot of other issues with where the trees are, because most people want to live on a tree-lined street. So whoever did that planning in Glendale way back when did a remarkable job in comparison to LA and other cities. Yeah, 100 years ago or whenever they start putting these power lines up. But one of the things I did want to ask Mr. Scorsese is that when we are looking for the trees to trim, we're seeing a lot of trees perhaps succumb to diseases, to beetles and to others, and they may seemingly look healthy, but they're really not. For staff or whoever, maybe it's our city arborist, to really keep an eye out for those. I've seen a number of absolutely dead trees in parkways that are just waiting to go up in flames. They're not next to power lines, and I know this is not for you, but to particularly pay attention to those trees and remove them if we have to, not hope that they'll be rehabilitated. Because I think with the oncoming seriousness of the drought and the water shortage, we're going to have a lot of brittle branches. One high wind could cause a number of outages, so go out there, trim away, whether it's, Edward Scissorhands style or however else, but make sure the city stays safe and we keep our power on.
We'll
Thank
do
you.
that. Yeah, thank you.
Ms.
Listen,
Devine, I
as
would
long as
like,
it's a Johnny Depp, it's okay with me. Go
I
ahead,
would like to
Councilmember
move
Agajanian.
this. I would like to move item 8C of $2.5 million tree trimming, please.
Okay, is there a second? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
and Mayor Devine.
Yes. And what's next, please?
Item 8D, Public Works regarding City of Glendale Measure R Sub-Regional Program Update. One, motion approving additional programming modifications to existing programming and funding changes to the adopted Measure R Sub-Regional Program.
Thank you. Mr. Galanian.
Yes, Mayor, Devon, members, City Council. As you know, Measure R is a half-cent sales tax for Los Angeles County that finances new transportation projects and programs that was approved by the voters in November of 2008. Staff currently has numerous projects in planning, design, and construction. And to request for new projects, for programming of the projects, and reprogramming of existing projects, we are required to submit an official request to Metro during the board's semi-annual meetings. The next meeting is expected to take place next month in July. Last time staff provided an update to council was in April of 2020. The only update that we currently have and would like to present to you is asking for an additional $800,000 in Measure R sub-regional programs for a project, this traffic signal modification and upgrades on Honolulu Avenue and Montrose Avenue at Pennsylvania. To date, the city has completed approximately $25.6 million in Measure R highway sub-regional programs. That's listed in your report. I would entertain any questions that you may have. Mr. Yazdan Emrani, Director of Public Works, is also available to respond to your questions.
Any questions?
I would like to move the item.
Thank you. Second? Is there a
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian.
Yes.
Brotman, Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. Thank you. Next item?
Next item would be AD, City Attorney regarding ratification and extension of emergency public orders. One, resolution extending and amending emergency public orders relating to personal care establishments, outdoor gyms and dance academies, the use of city's park facilities for gyms and dance academies, and outdoor use of banquet halls. Two, resolution extending emergency public order relating to a moratorium on certain commercial evictions. Three, resolution of the City Council restating a prior resolution and ratifying a public order for face coverings under the City of Glendale Emergency Authority.
Thank you. And, Mr.
Madam Mayor.
Galani?
So the items before you are with respect to some of the emergency orders that are expiring tomorrow. As you know, the council extended the alfresco orders last month through September. And there are additional public orders that will expire tomorrow related to outdoor gyms and dance academies, personal care establishments, banquet halls, and the use of parks for gyms and dance academies. So the council, if it chooses, can extend those to September 30th. To align with alfresco. I would note, I don't think we've necessarily received a demand or request for this, but if the council desires to provide that additional opportunity while we're still in the emergency period, it can do so. The other item that's before you, or two other items. One is the commercial eviction moratorium, also set to expire tomorrow. As you know, that applies to certain commercial tenants of a certain size, 99 or fewer employees, fewer than 11 locations, and not publicly traded companies. And then the repayment period is for 6 months after the expiration. So That is also set to expire tomorrow. The council can extend it to September 30th or another date of the council's choosing. I would note that LA County recently extended theirs to September 30th, as did the city of Burbank. And then Pasadena and Culver Cities, theirs actually go until their emergency is over. So that is another item that the council has the discretion to extend if it so desires. And then lastly, the other item is regarding, it's just essentially ratifying the prior order on face coverings, basically saying our order will be in alignment with the LA County's order. So to the extent that that's modified, it gets modified with it, but at least allows us that enforcement tool if, as noted earlier, if the face, for example, the face covering mandate is re-upped or, kind of increased given Delta variant or other factors, then ours would as well. We wouldn't require additional action of the Director of Emergency Services or the council. So those are the items before you. And we would just need, obviously, the council, if they want to extend those orders, to do so with the motion and give us the dates that you would like to see.
Comments? Councilmember Agajanian.
Not comment. I want to move the item 8.
Do we have any callers?
E1, 2, 3.
And
we have to.
Well, yeah, we need the
have to give
date
some-
on 1 and 2. Would you like to do September 30th?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
I just have a question.
Okay, question.
So the residential eviction moratorium was passed by the state.
Correct.
So we're not, that's
not- yeah, that's out of our
we're just
hands.
doing the commercial.
Correct.
Commercial end of it. With those restrictions of the certain size.
Yes.
Okay.
This
So
is
the same as
just
the
continuing
county?
what we had already established. I know we
Yes.
had considerable discussion
Yeah.
about it, and everything is still in place, just we're moving it out. Okay, thank you.
Roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Kasakian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item?
Next item would be 9 hearings, Fire Department regarding public hearing to confirm assessed abatement fees, vegetation management program. 1 motion finding the fee of $3,614 appropriately owed by the owner of 125 Bailey Place and authorizing the fire code official to file a lien accordingly.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Mr. Galanian?
Yeah, Mayor Devine, member City Council, we don't have a staff presentation for this item. I'll just submit to you that fire department staff have attempted on several occasions to connect with the property owner to no avail. And
I would like then to move the item.
Well, okay, so there's no discussion. I'll close the public hearing, and we have a motion on the floor. Second?
Second.
Yes.
Roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Kasakian? Najarian?
Yes.
And Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item would be reports and information, update on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts.
Good, okay, thank you. Mr. Galanian?
yes, Madam Mayor, members of City Council, this is an information-only item. We thought it would be a good idea to keep the council up to date on our continuing efforts on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are waiting for Ms. Powers, Christine Powers, our senior executive analyst, who will make the presentation to come to the chambers.
Are we moving
We're waiting-
faster than?
We're waiting for, yes, then she thought we
than
would,
she
I guess.
had
Right,
expected.
yes, yes.
Item got moved.
I know. She on her way?
She's
1
on her
minute.
way.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay. I want to thank my fellow colleagues for moving this evening along so nicely,
So,
smoothly.
thank Councilman Agajanian. He's got that quick trigger finger today.
So what happened? We
Yeah, I like that.
We postponed it?
No.
No,
not this item.
Christine, here she
She'll be
comes.
with us momentarily.
I hope she has a note from her mother. Where were you? No, I'm kidding. For being tardy. Oh, it's okay, you're forgiven.
Good evening, Mayor Devine, council members. I apologize for my delay. I was settled in for a longer night. As you know, we've been working for the past year on this effort to bring about diversity and equity and inclusion to everything that we're doing here at the City of Glendale. This did really start last summer in 2020 as a summer of racial reckoning throughout the country. We had national dialogue on race and equity with protests taking place across the country and here locally as well. Council had expressed interest in joining the conversation and taking actionable steps here in Glendale. Both the mayor and police chief issued statements, and the city as a whole also released a statement of solidarity, as you see here on this slide. The city of Glendale joined the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, known as GARE, and in the fall, staff got to work on a report and resolution requested by council acknowledging Glendale as a sundown town. This past September, the City Council unanimously passed this resolution acknowledging and apologizing for Glendale's racially exclusionary past as a sundown town. In doing so, Glendale became the first city in the state and the third in the nation to pass such a resolution. And as part of this report, in an effort to fully explore and understand Glendale's history, Council directed staff to release a request for proposals for a historic context statement. Based on this direction, the city issued an RFP in January of this year seeking services of an individual or firm to write a historic context statement for the city with a focus on the theme of race and ethnicity. Last month, council selected GPA Consulting to write this historic context statement for the city, and we are excited for our internal kickoff meeting next month and to begin engaging a stakeholder advisory group. And you can see from this timeline, we anticipate a final draft of the document by next spring, which will include public meetings both before and after its release. With regard to the examination of our Glendale Police Department policies, the Glendale Police Department has updated its use of force policies based on recent updates from the Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Trainings. That includes recent legislation like AB 392 and SB 230, and is currently completing review of current policies against then Attorney General Becerra's recommendations. Our GPD is also engaged in racial profile awareness training for all officers. Starting last summer, we began implicit bias training for the city through LA County Commission on Human Relations. To date, we have trained over 300 mid and upper managers, executives, and council members. The trainers aren't available this summer, so we've taken a slight pause, but we are resuming training this fall with the remainder of our workforce into this coming fiscal year. And last summer, we launched our Racism Past and Present panel discussion, which you were all present for, and that was really the beginning of an ongoing conversation we have engaged our community in. As a key educational resource in our community, it really made sense for this work to go through the library based on its rich offerings. And from that inaugural panel discussion, the Library Arts and Culture Department created the Be the Change series, which is focused on inclusion, diversity, equity, and anti-racism. The events have built a collective understanding of systemic racism, have elevated voices and stories of Black, Indigenous, people of color, and inspire our community to be the change. These series take place in conjunction with different commemorations such as Hispanic Culture Month, Native American Heritage Month, Black History Month, Armenian Genocide Remembrance, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. And just recently, the series examined the 100-year anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. The Be the Change series includes virtual lectures, exhibits, online programming from authors, curators, and historians. We've had 6 authors' talks to date with over 3,000 participants virtually. And in addition to this programming, the library plans events, craft kits, activity booklets, book lists, and much more for children and adults during these Heritage Month celebrations. And in discussing this with the library, one of the most successful aspects of all these efforts has been the library's ability to partner with our local organizations to understand what kind of programming would be most meaningful to our local community. And so partners have included Glendale Out, Fernandino Tavitiam Band of Mission Indians, Stop AAPI Hate, Black in Glendale, Glendale Latino Association, Glendale Community College, Black Valley Connection, and the USC Institute of Armenian Studies. And also as part of this series, and in observance of Black History Month, the library had an exhibit in our Reflect space that explores Glendale's racist history through photos and documents from the Glendale Central Library archives. It's called Reckoning and Racism, Resistance in Glendale. It includes interviews with scholars, local activists who connect historical material to our present day. It really is a massive undertaking. It takes 6 episodes and takes viewers through in an interactive digital portal, and it grew to a citywide public art installation called Colonial Swag by local artist April Bay, which is the image you see here on this slide. And it's also expanded to a collaboration with the Glendale Unified School District. We've engaged their high school students in this, and they've even contributed their own art in response to the exhibit. We've had over 4,000 visitors since its launch. And it's going to remain online and accessible on a local, national, and global level for everyone to access this resource. And in addition to this, at the library, recognizing the power of literature for children and how they understand the world, our library did a children's collection diversity audit to examine our children's collection to ensure that it's diverse and that it appropriately represents various cultures. And with this audit comes the deployment of a plan to share and highlight diverse titles through the library's various programming activities. And this past September, the Arts and Culture Commission released a Black History Month call for artists, and then subsequently in January released an Armenian Genocide Remembrance Month call for artists. And these are really to focus on magnifying Black artists and the Black experience, and Armenian artists and Armenian experience, respectfully. And during the past fiscal year, the Library Arts and Culture Department enrolled all their staff in a wide variety of trainings to learn more about diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. So given the work that the Library Arts and Culture Department has done in this past year, they will utilize an outside consultant to engage in research and analysis of current external and internal cultural programming through a lens of cultural equity and inclusion. They plan to establish a cultural equity and inclusion plan and train their staff in best practices for facilitating conversations surrounding these topics. Last month, GARE held its annual conference, during which it shared resources and the work of many government entities around the country and the work they're doing by way of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And staff is in the process of analyzing and assembling best practices from this conference and bringing a report to council this summer for consideration of an equity action plan. And that concludes the report. If you have any questions, thank you.
I have a question. First of all, what Library Arts and Culture staff, not training, but they're the call for artists, the Armenian artists and the black artists, what are they going to do with that art? What's the plan for that art?
So some of that art is in one of the pieces you've seen, the Armenian, the Eternal, I have the name here. So what they did, there were 2 finalists chosen for the Black History Month call for artists. They were Black in Glendale did Community Healing Circles, and Victor Yates, his art piece is called Death Sentence, a literary protest performance. And they also hosted a panel discussion with some of the local artists. And for the Armenian Genocide Remembrance Month call for artists, there's a She Loves Me collective, My Relic, temporary pop-up exhibited at Artsakh, which is what you've all seen. And also, there's the Eternal Armenia by Varej Bakalyan, the 16-foot LED circular sculpture in Central Park.
Yes, those were beautiful, both of those. Okay.
So those are those are
Wonderful.
what has come from those call for artists.
Fantastic, fantastic. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? Can you give me again the timeline on the historic context statement, first draft, starting when?
Sure, the first draft will be produced by late fall of this year, so let me go backwards. We'll commence the stakeholder advisory group shortly and engage them, and at the same time, the firm will start their research and reconnaissance survey,
Okay.
which will go into the fall, and we anticipate a first draft late this fall.
so
and a
they'll
final draft by spring.
So they'll be working together, the stakeholder group?
Yes.
With the,
And there'll be public engagement along the way throughout this entire process. I did put public meetings at the very end, but it should be noted that there will be other public meetings. The stakeholder group will be engaged in this, so there will be plenty of public input. In fact, the group welcomes public input along the way.
that's great.
I have a question.
Councilmember
Just
Brotman.
following up on that, you might have discussed this with us, I can't remember, but who's on the stakeholder advisory group?
We haven't assembled it yet,
Okay.
but we will, and we'll reach out to some of our key community
Okay.
folks,
And you can,
such as the
you can share
coalition.
that with us?
Absolutely.
So we might have suggestions of people that should be considered. And then the other question I had was, you mentioned that Glendale Police Department has done some, updating some policies around use of force and is working on, but is still working on the Attorney General Becerra's recommendations, is
Yes,
that correct?
that's my
Are we
understanding.
going to get, and I guess that's for the chief here, are we going to get an update on that? Because I don't think we have, right?
Good evening, Mayor Devine, members of council, Councilmember Brotman. Yes, you will get an update on that. We're in the process of drafting it. We revised our policies to comply with the latest post guidelines that came out late last year. And we're just going through the process now, of comparing what we have against those guidelines, and we'll get you an update.
Okay, the guidelines being the Attorney General's?
Yeah,
Okay.
former Attorney General Becerra's.
Yeah, because I remember, last year, more than a year ago, when, after George Floyd's murder, we were getting a lot of messages from people about a couple different things. One was the Becerra recommendation, but then there was this 8 can't wait, and there were a couple other like iterations of, here are some policies. When you bring that to us, can you put that into context with some of those, some of those frameworks so that we can kind of see where we are compared to, some of these other, I guess, sets of recommendations or best practices?
Yes, and I think, as I said, looking at the preliminary, we'll stack up very well against the Attorney General's recommendations.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Powers, for the report.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Very well done. Councilmember
I
Kasakian.
want to thank Ms. Powers as well, and thank you for all the work that we're doing. I'm just curious, do we still have the One Book, One Glendale program, or has that been put on ice? At one point, there was this program, Libraries was running it not too long ago. We'd select a book, we'd get hundreds of copies of it, and people would have book clubs and discussions. Can we see if that program is still kicking, and if it's not, try to restart it and incorporate that into our outreach efforts? And it doesn't have to be just limited to books. We can also do it with podcasts and documentaries and have people have these discussions in their own homes and with their neighbors. I think the more talks and discussions people have with each other, we can have we can confront the issues that we've had as a community. We can hopefully move beyond them by better understanding. And also, obviously, I think that, when we put on an advisory committee to make sure that it's inclusive, obviously, but also reflective of the community. I mean, between Asian American community, the AAPI, and Armenian American, Latino, Black, et cetera, we want to make sure that everyone is included. I have seen a lot of great things happening in the community in terms of intersectionality of different groups working together. I did attend an event where there was an interpretive dance performance that was put on that explored the connections between Armenian and Ethiopian cultures, and Emperor Selassie and his involvement in helping save Armenian orphans, and then connecting that to Jamaican Rastafarian culture. So in as much as we can do these things to show our community that we're all interconnected, including also, let's not forget the First Nation peoples, the Tongva and tribal communities that first settled this land before others came here, I think that would be helpful. So you may have mentioned it, but if not, I would like to make sure that we include that as well and pay respect to those communities.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much, Christine Powers. Thank you for that report. Well done. What's next, please?
Next would be oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to their appropriate department for an investigation and report. Mayor, I have no callers.
Okay, what's next then?
Next would be new business.
And we have new business, I believe.
Two items, one
items.
with Councilmember Najarian and one with Councilmember Kasakian.
Councilmember Najarian?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the city attorney be and hereby is authorized to resolve all carpet claims, including fees and costs related thereto, as against J&J Carpet, Pro Spectra, and Kemp Brothers in the case of City of Glendale versus Kemp Brothers Construction, LA Superior Court Case number 19STCV 37455, in exchange for full replacement and installation of new carpet at the Central Library and payment to the City of Glendale and/or Kasdan Turner Thompson Booth LLP in the amount of $275,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Kasakian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
And Mayor Devine.
Yes. And Councilmember Kasakian?
I move that the city attorney be and hereby authorized to enter into a retainer agreement with Bill H. Seki of Seki, Nishimura, and Watasi LLP to provide legal services on pending matters and to incur all necessary expenses in connection therewith. The retainer agreement shall, in addition to other provisions, contain a fee cap for providing legal services.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Kasakian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. What's next?
Next would be adjournment.
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, we're adjourned at 8:24. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.